Well, since you mentioned economic development, that's what they claimed the effort, said the effort for. I know
Those trips brought nothing in, Bert.
I know that, but that's what I said. It was happening on the federal level. Someone went to a country over there on a business trip, and they take 15 people with them on the plane, all expenses paid, and guess who all those 15 people were? People that were supporters of the administration. And so this is going on. There's nothing new there, and I no doubt those African trips included a lot of friends too. It wasn't just the people that could make a difference. But there's some people that say they've got some business in the county as a result of that. I don't know. But you were a very strong supporter of economic development when you were on the council, as I remember. And during that time, the Economic Development Department was taken out of the county, and a private arrangement was made, most of the Prince George Chamber members, to run the Economic Development Department. And in the counties, you know, there was about 5 different departments: economic development, neighborhood planning, or environmental. We actually, in that department, at the time I was there, we actually had people going out studying the historical areas for remodeling. They take pictures. So it was a great deal under that area, and that's one thing Parrish did. He supported it coming out of the county, and whether it was a good move or not, I don't know. Do you think?
Yeah, what do you think of that?
It's happened. You think that was a good move?
I think it was. You know, I played a different role at that particular time. Parrish was the county executive. He was unabashedly pro-business.
That's his word.
My role was, I was a smart growther. I was the one who was trying to get, you know, some impact fees. I wanted to see development occur. I didn't want to see all those costs thrown on the existing ratepayers. I felt that if a development was coming in and they had to extend those water and sewer lines, they should be paid for, at least, you know, 90% paid for, so that the benefit of that was the home buyers were going to pay that cost, or the developer was going to pay that cost, so that adequate schools were there, adequate roads were there. So I was having that kind of input on smart growth. I'd like to think that, you know, Parrish, you know, came around to my way, because he then, you know, became a smart growth, especially when he got into the governor, when he got into the governor's mansion.
Well, now he's got his consulting firm.
Got a consulting firm. So we've really come a long way. You do have to have growth. You really want to pick it and choose. You want to try to take advantage of the infrastructure we have inside the Beltway, the mass transit lines that we have there. If I was running the show, I would not allow any metro stations unless you had high density to support it. You want to get the people out of the cars, and a lot of times what happens is you end up trying to create a metro center, and all the neighborhood says, oh, we want a metro center, but they don't want the density to go with it.
That's right.
And in order to get a metro center, you have to have that density, and it works well when you have that density. So there's always an educational aspect to all of these zoning proposals, whether it's smart growth, whether it's development, and the kinds of development you have. And I was impressed with Parrish Glendenning as our governor on the decisions and the way he moved the state. He had a lot of gold in his bucket, and he had some very innovative
I think
programs.
He was underrated.
Oh, he was. He was.
Terrific. Look at what we got now, or what we may be getting. I mean, what a choice between Ehrlich and O'Malley.
Well,
I think I'd prefer Lady Gaga.
Sound like Facebook comment.
Yeah.
You know, you're right, and I think the most political candidates during this period of time for the county was pushing just what you're saying, metro stop development with a lot of conditions that could be done. But the thing that bothered me a great deal about economic development in the last few years is we've lost a lot of businesses. They've left Maryland. And,
well, I think some of that has to do with the problems that occur both on the county council and the county executive. When you're trying to bring development in, everyone wants a piece of the pie.
Yes.
And if you are to believe what was in the newspapers, you know, to get an office building coming in and the council wants their piece, someone else wants, you know, that was too fragmented. And you know, you needed a county executive who would crack the whip and say, look, folks, this is the project we want. This is what we need in this county. It's a good, get out of the way, you know, and let's kind of streamline.
Well, the whole development process is
let's streamline the Department of Permits so that they can do this right, so we don't hold up. All those added costs really affect the business person.
And those developers and business people, mostly the developers, you know, is expected that they would make some sort of contribution to these personal funds.
Yeah, that's almost
I think
obscene.
That's absolutely unethical.
It is. It is.
Well, it happened with Gaylord in the development I think we can be very proud of with the National Harbor development. And you were involved
I've never
at the beginning.
been there.
It's worth the trip.
It is. It's a beautiful,
really?
beautiful
Yeah,
place.
I've
In
never
fact,
been there.
I would suggest you take Eleanor over there. You have a nice lunch. You hop on the little ferry boat. You go over to Old Town, Virginia, and then up to.
Oh, you can go from from there to Old Town.
Oh, yes, and then you
nice.
can go all the way down to Georgetown, and have dinner down there and get back.
Really?
It's just it's a great. And
didn't know that.
Eleanor will love it.
Yeah, she likes
She
that.
likes the high life.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about that, though, in the Gaylord, I talked to them, and some of the problem they had, and there was representatives, and I don't know how they contacted me, but it had to do with employment. And there was Wayne Curry's term. And the interesting thing then developed later that they made a deal with Gaylord on minority hiring, and it almost killed the project development because Peters, Dean, and one other person actually said they reported to the council, we should increase the percentage of minority hiring after it's been built as well. Well, Gaylord almost pulled up their tractors and left on expanding. Now, they had another hotel they were building there with a different name, and another one they had a plot there, land. But the point is, that almost killed that Gaylord keeping their investment
Well,
here
that
at
was
that
Jack
time.
Johnson, of course.
Well, no, quite frankly, he championed it remaining the way they agreed to begin with. And I happened to talk, my son-in-law ran a construction there. He was the number 2 guy. And what happened, they were having a hard time meeting it to begin with, and at 17 or 18%, it was finally they met it. They did better, 22%. But for them to tell them then, after you build the hotel, we want these percentages to be increased to 35%, it damn near killed the deal.
Yeah, you can't change the game in the middle of the
a lot of work.
first quarter or something.
Yeah, been a lot of work involved.
I'm all for
A lot of
hiring the best
employees.
people, period.
Well, this is what happens sometimes when you don't have people who are in charge who understand there's a business side.
Yeah.
You can, most developers, when they come into a community, they want to be a participant, they want to be accommodating.
Sure.
But they have to be able to make a profit.
Yes.
There's no sense in we're having a building there, and then the building falls apart, or we can't make the leases, or the money doesn't work. And so you need to have someone smart enough, and maybe even someone in the chamber that can work together and say, look, if we want to have some participation, we expect them to participate. They'll participate, and what's reasonable.
Well, I
They had
think
no
the
problem.
Bowie Chamber does a fairly decent job of that. The county, I'm not so much sure.
I think I know I've had some dealings with the county chamber, or tried to have some dealings with the county chamber, and they're really not an effective group anymore.
No, they're not.
They
Correct.
were,
They're almost a farce.
And you're right, they've had a lot of turnover of directors, as you know, and it's ridiculous because they used to have 1,300 members. I understand now they can't even reach 500.
Oh, I believe it.
750.
Our chamber does a much better job.
But it's a big difference.
We're drawing down in time, and there's one point I want to put you on. I'm not put you on the spot for, but I'd like to get your observations. We keep hearing this absolute hoopla about the county schools improving and improving and improving. Well, they're not. In achievement tests, they're just above Baltimore City, which is, of course, the worst in the state. What in heaven's name can we do about that?
Well, my view on schools and improvement in classrooms really starts at home. And most of our problems, in my view, in my opinion, is that if you don't have the parental oversight when the child comes home, they do their homework before they go out and play, before they turn on their Atari games, and that they're fed and go to sleep at night so they're up fresh in the morning. That's probably the biggest problem we have right now.
Oh, you're an old
Prince George.
traditionalist, aren't you?
Yeah, you're right, though.
I am. That's the way my parents raised me, and I see it in what we're left with. Most of the reason we have success in charter schools is because those parents fight to get their kids into charter school. You have the parent involvement in the charter schools. We're losing it in the public schools because there's so many problems in the community.
Oh, I know.
Single parents. Parents who either don't have enough money or don't have enough resources or have their own serious emotional or mental problems.
And I think homeschooling's for the birds.
Oh, homeschooling is terrible.
Ridiculous.
I haven't seen, the statistics I've seen show that there are problems with folks who come out of homeschooling.
Oh, no question about it. Every once in a while there'll be a prodigy who will do well, but for the most part, these kids are not being educated.
If we could find a way, now this is the only problem where I don't know whether you'd have to handle it on the national level, and then Obama would be criticized for doing something wrong here.
Oh, of course.
But you have to get parents, and not, teachers are sometimes a problem, and the unions may be sometimes a problem, but I think parents are more of a problem than the teachers.
I agree.
If the parents,
Fortunately, here in Bowie, though, we do have parents
well,
who
you
are.
have great parents here because you have pretty good schools here
We
too.
do the best in the county.
Right. So I mean, you're fortunate. You have good elected officials. You have good city officials.
Yes.
You have good parents,
Yes.
and you have a good community, a solid community, a pretty good police force too for a new police force.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I was wondering your comments about it. And the school system here is almost like a lot of people in other areas that I've met want to move to Bowie. The schools are not what they think they should be, but they're better than what they were. And I think it has to do, like you said, with the parents' involvement. And this one teacher, a friend of mine, taught in another area of Prince George County. He said the PTA, nobody there.
You can't get people to show up.
Yeah.
Even if you feed them,
I know.
they won't show up.
Yeah, so it's a toughie.
Well, we only have a few minutes left. I want to get your comments. The future of Prince George's County, what do you think?
Well, I have high hopes for the future of Prince George's County, especially with Verschuren coming in.
Okay.
I think Verschuren is going to be a bright light. We're going to watch and see who he surrounds himself with, how he tackles some of the problems. He's got his hands full with the education, the Board of Education, but I think if he can focus on some of those departments, get those departments to come in and reevaluate themselves, put some top leadership in there, I think we'll have a bright future.
Well, that's good. And on that very positive note, which we like, we're ending this program. And I would appreciate it if you'd pass on my greetings to your lovely wife.
Will do.
Okay.
And make sure you take Eleanor to the Gaylord.
I will do that on your suggestion. And to our audience, thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you. Good night, or good afternoon, whatever the case may be.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank
You
you.
did good.
Thanks. Yeah, that was super.
You know,